Since 1972, the letter M has been very important in BMW speak. Ever since then, M cars have gotten a lot faster, a lot more sophisticated, and much, much larger.
But this car might just be the sweet spot. So the BMW M2, this car came out in 2015 and it has the classic BMW formula of straight six up front, rear wheel drive, and a manual transmission. And the first thing I can tell you is that it's an experience dominated by the handling. The chassis in this thing just feels very sharp, along with the steering. Every time you turn the wheel to change direction in this car, it feels like it wants to dart into the corner with a ferocity that other cars just don't have. It's also really light on its feet. Like, we're coming into a corner here and I can turn in late and it'll hook and take these turns at a pretty good speed. It's a very fun experience, and when you do get on it, it is pretty quick. And it revs super high. Yeah, I'm having a lot of fun in this thing. This is a nice car. Another thing I can tell you is that it is very nice that it feels as small as it does, because it really feels like the car kind of disappears around you. You don't really feel the weight that a lot of cars have. That kind of brings like a hesitance to the way the car handles. This car, you just turn it in and it'll take you wherever you want to go. One thing I can comment on that is not that positive is just that BMW seems to have never figured out how to make the manual shifter feel engaging. It still has that rubberiness to it that is kind of disappointing, but it doesn't take that much away from the experience. Is very fast. I can really tell that every micro adjustment I do on the steering wheel, the car is doing it for me. It feels like the connection between the steering wheel and the front tires is very, very direct, which a lot of cars are kind of missing now. And I know this is an electronic steering rack, but it really does feel almost like it's a hydraulic steering rack. It is very nice. This is a very nice balance of a luxury car and a very sporty car. And right now I can also feel that the engine is doing a great job at distributing torque. Right now I'm in 6th gear going about 50 miles an hour, and if I floor it, it immediately starts pulling. There's no dead spot. This thing has a ton of torque, but it also has, even though it's turbocharged, it also has basically no turbo lag. You can feel it a little bit in between shifts, but if you're just cruising around and you lay into the power, you will feel the torque building pretty much immediately. And it keeps building all the way to red line, which is pretty interesting because the turbo in this thing is not that big. So you would think it would run out of steam when it's reaching that sky-high 7,000 RPM red line, but it really doesn't. It keeps pulling and pulling and pulling, and it gets you to speed very quickly. There are some more corners here. Downshift, throw it into the corner, and man, the balance in this thing is excellent. I can really throw it into corners, and I can tell there is a huge amount of mechanical grip up front. Like a ridiculous, stupid amount of mechanical grip up front. It really is surprising how well this car handles. I'd never driven one of these before, and I always kind of underrated them in my mind because it's an M2, right? It's not an M4, but honestly, this might just be one of the better M cars I've driven so far.
So the M2 drives really well. There is, however, a bit of a problem.
Many people don't see this car as an actual M car. That is because it uses an N55 engine, just like the M235i. But this is not quite a normal N55.
Historically, M cars have always had heavily modified versions of BMW's base engines, and this one is no different. It features a forged crankshaft, forged connecting rods, cast iron sleeves instead of the normal spray-on liners, a high-flow turbo manifold, a new oil pan, 2 additional oil coolers, a new oil pump and baffle system borrowed from the M4, along with heavier duty piston rings, Kohler spark plugs, and an external wastegate with a forged shaft. All of this is good for 367 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque. This is BMW making a straight six that is durable rather than powerful.
And these changes are only the engine. The M2 also borrows both front and rear subframes, the steering rack, the electronic M differential, and an optional 7-speed DCT from the M4.
And the changes don't stop there. The M2 has wider front and rear fenders along with more aggressive front and rear bumpers. It also includes the signature BMW M quad exhausts.
It also has these very nice M Sport 19-inch forged wheels, and behind them you have 2-piece rotors and some big blue 4-piston calipers. As far as the interior goes, it's basically just typical BMW in here. Everything is very well put together and it's very well built, and the materials are all very high quality. It is relatively roomy in here and the visibility is not bad. However, the only differences I've been able to notice from a regular 2 Series is just that there's a little bit of carbon fiber. These bucket seats are very nice, and this digital dash that only comes on the LCI version is really cool to look at. If you want a small M car, the M2 is the way to do it. Now, you have a couple of options. You can get this exact car for around 40 grand. This is a 2018 LCI version, which means you get these LED taillights, LED headlights, and that cool digital dash. Now, if you want to save yourself about $5,000, you can get the OG M2, that is the 2015 to 2017 model year, and it's the exact same car except you don't get the LED lights and the dash. And if you want to spend a little bit more money and get that S55 and bigger brakes, you can get the competition version, but that'll run you about 50 grand. Either way you do it, you will be getting a very good M car.